Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and you want to know about how we're helping other accredited investors keep more of their income, go to firstgencp.com/going long.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And yes, I'm your host, Billy Keels, and I'm really looking forward to today's episode because I'm going to be sharing that with you. Yeah, finally getting there. It's taken me a while, but today's another one of the solo episodes. I want to jump in. I want to start right away and recognize one of our wonderful, honest written reviews from one of our listeners, one of our previous guests, actually this time. And I want to get into today's conversation because we're going to take a look at something that I know a lot of you have a lot of passion around. It's something that I consistently speak to future or potential future clients around. And this is the whole thing of the qualified plan. And if you don't know the qualified plan, that's actually its formal name, but a lot of you will think about it as one of the defined contribution plans, specifically the 401k IRA. I want to talk about these qualified plans, and more than likely, I'm going to spend a little bit of time today, and then I even will probably talk about it in the next conversation. So, like I said, we want to keep these episodes, these solo kind of episodes, really pretty brief, so that you get not just a strategic look at things, but you can break things down and these concepts, ideas, and really make them actionable. So before we jump into that, I do want to recognize another one of our honest written reviews. Once again, we're going to be reading these and because of the podcast, the reach that we have today, it's over 30 countries. And like I said, over tens of thousands of downloads. So today's honest written review comes from Sharon Vornholt. And actually Sharon was a guest on episode 107. So if you want to check out Sharon's episode, it was absolutely fantastic, episode 107. And she leaves, "This show is one of a kind. Billy Keels does a great job of going deep with his podcast guests. Remote real estate investing isn't always easy. His mission to show people that they really can invest anywhere is not only educating people, but he's making it possible for those same folks to build a business outside of their own geographic location. Whether you're a newbie or a seasoned investor, this show is for you." Well, thanks so much, Sharon. Really appreciate that. And once again, check out Sharon's episode. It was 107. She's doing an absolutely amazing job, and you'll find out all about that and how she's helping make impact on lives. And I really appreciate it, especially when a guest a previous guest takes time to leave an honest written review like that. And if you haven't done so yet, and you want to get your honest written review read in front of the world, go ahead and leave it. And I'll be sure to read it here because it's the right thing to do. So listen, other things. So let's jump into this thing about the qualified plan, right? Because it's something, as I mentioned, I speak about in the calls that I have with potential future clients. I really want to understand the previous investment. And so many people, the only previous investing experience, and I say investing experiences, is through the qualified plan, a 401k typically, sometimes an IRA, sometimes if you're in the government plans, it's pretty much the same. But this whole concept is something that I never really understood once I started investing. I mean, when I didn't invest, I didn't really understand it. So that's what I started doing. But once I started doing it, I didn't really understand. And so conceptually, I just want to leave you with something today. Like I said, these are going to be pretty brief episodes. And it's just, I want you to think about what is the right thing for you. I'm not here to say this because, what is the destination you're trying to get to? And then what are the different vehicles that you want to be able to, number one, understand that you have a support system around and that you can take action on and feel comfortable. How many of those vehicles do you want to use or need to use to get to your destination as quickly as possible? This is another one of those tools, right? A qualified plan, a 401k, an IRA is something that you can do. But once I started investing, the whole concept around putting my capital somewhere, putting my currency or my money, however you want to describe it, putting it somewhere where and I'm thinking about the person who's just getting started, right? You're putting it somewhere, maybe you're starting your job because today people are starting a little bit later. Maybe you're starting at 25. You're going to retire at 65 if you're lucky. So that's 40 years. So the whole concept of a qualified plan is it's something that you continue to put your money into, and eventually you will be able to get it out. and you'll get that out when you're 65 or 67 or whatever the case may be, but you can't touch it at least until you turn 59 and a half. This is going to be very specific for US-based people, but conceptually it's the same, because I had something very similar until I stopped doing that while I was here in Spain and in France, and these defined contribution plans are pretty much the same. But the problem is that I see is that you're placing your money somewhere that you're not going to be able to actually utilize for 40 years. Let me say that again, that you're not going to be able to utilize yourself to pay for anything to use in your life, to build your lifestyle for 40 years. So, and I guess is in today's conversation, because I said I want to keep it pretty high level. Can you imagine? And for those of you that are parents, you will definitely understand this pretty quickly. But can you imagine actually having a child? Your child is born, and then you have all these great ideas, and you know exactly how you want your child to eat. You know how you want their behavior to be. You know how you want them to be cultured, or how you want their even their hygiene to be. And you know all these things at birth, right? Just like when you start you do that when they're born. And you know that it takes a lot of hard work, consistent work, especially very, very consistent work, to make sure that over the span of even the first 10 or 15 years that you get on the right track. And that's with you spending every single day, 24 hours a day with your child when you're not working, right? And so the thing is that even though you do that every single day, children turn out very differently, right? Children are different. They're influenced by different things. They're in the outside world when they go to school, all of these types of things. And they have a major influence, and you're with your child every single day. And so at the end of 40 years, and I'm just starting, not even halfway there yet with our children, you get some points of feedback, but you get them on a daily basis, especially, your kids go away, they come back from people's house and they say, hey, listen, your child was really well behaved, and they did this and they did that, and they helped with this. And so you know that the work that you're doing is actually, your children are becoming the individuals that you are creating the environment for them to become, right? And so the reason I talk about this is it takes a lot of hard work day to day to even get started on the right path. And so the thing that I never really have understood and still don't understand to this day is when you are placing your capital for 40 years and you don't know what your capital is doing, because most people sign on the line when the person comes in from HR and you're signing over, and you like the fact that, hey, listen, you're getting and I know that a lot of people are already saying, yeah, Billy, but it's free money, right? Because you're getting double, or maybe they have a 20% match, or they have a 2% match. Some companies aren't even matching anymore. But the fact of the matter is, it's like, can you imagine giving your child to someone on day one and saying, hey, listen, I want all these things for my child. I want them to be this way. I want them to have the environment that allows them to do this, and they have this type of education. But you don't ever talk, you don't see your child. You just literally give it to someone else, and you don't even ask. Maybe every 2-3 years you check in, hey, how's things going? Oh, okay, great. And if things are going in the right path, you don't ask any questions. If things are going wrong, you may talk about it and be concerned for a couple of days, but then you just go back to life. So you do a lot of hard work to be able to earn this capital, this money, this currency. And so one of the things that just conceptually, without even getting into all the numbers and stuff like that, is you're giving your money to some place where you can't use it for 40 years without the fear of taking a penalty and or the fear of losing it on a piece of paper, the value on a piece of paper every day. And so because this is one of the things that just conceptually, like I said, I don't want to really get into a lot of it, but I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this. And I use the image of someone who's having a child or has a child, because you can relate to that, and saying, hey, listen, I'm just going to give my child over. I'm not going to really give much instruction. I'm just going to say, want these things to happen, but you're not actually doing any of the work. So how would you expect that the environment that you're creating for your children, or that your children will be on the path that you want them to be, if you haven't actually dedicated the time to it, that you've given that responsibility to someone? But then even with that someone, you only check in probably once a year, and it's not really a deep dive. It's more, I'm just going to tell you the things that are happening. And as long as things are happening and you hear that they're happening well, you don't ask me any other questions. If they're not, well, you ask 2 or 3 questions, but because you haven't really had that much contact with the child, you don't really understand, you don't really know, it can be kind of confusing. So I just want you to conceptually think about that. It's something that's been on my mind. Hopefully this is something that makes sense as it relates to the qualified plans and kind of what happens. It's basically you give your money someplace, 40 years later, you hope that it shows up well. And also you hope that the timing of the market when you need to use that is actually going in the right direction. Not like things have been going recently, because timing is everything as it relates to these qualified plans, the defined contribution plans. So listen, hopefully this has made a lot of sense. Like I said, I wanted to leave this very high level. The next conversation, I'm going to talk a little bit about probably the cash flow. I thought I would be best to do that. So I will do that in the next conversation. But once again, for those of you that are also accredited investors, you're high paid professionals, and you are interested in being able to create consistent returns, predictable returns, as well as be able to keep more of your money because of being able to find strong deductions for your income tax, I think it would be worth it for you to download our free guide. You can go to get that at firstgencp.com/going long. Once again, that's firstgencp.com/going long. Pick that up. Talk about today's conversation. Does this concept of, the 40 years to before you can actually touch your money and use it on a day-to-day basis, which is really what you need to use it for. Does that make sense to you? Does it not make sense to you? I'd love to know what you think about in the comment section. Leave your honest written review. We'd really appreciate that. And while you're working on that, I'll be waiting and getting ready for the second part of this conversation. So go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Trust that you enjoyed today's conversation. And once again, today's conversation was sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and want to find out more about how we're helping accredited investors to gain their personal freedom even faster, go to firstgencp.com/going long.